What's good, YouTube? This is Boxingwave, and this is going to be my last quick video of the day. I'm just trying to catch up with certain boxing news, but made short videos all day because I just wanted to catch up, but I didn't want to go and make a long video because I'm still recovering from me being sick. All right, but last video of the day before I get out of here because I'm going to go and watch the Super Bowl. Anthony Joshua is officially with Derrick James. We all knew it was. I've made content on this already. We all knew that Derrick James was going to be that guy. All right. There's been interviews where the hints were thrown out there. So we all knew this. I've been talking about this for a minute, but I'm glad that it's official. I'm glad that it's Derrick James, who I think is the best coach in the game right now as far as his success rate. I made videos in the past. He's the trainer of the year. I think he's been probably the trainer of the year before. But Derrick James coaching Frank Martin, Errol Spence Jr., and he's coached Jamel Charlo, right? His success it's been very high, with those three fighters. And it's not all about that. It's about the chemistry with the fighter. Just because it worked with those three fighters doesn't mean it's gonna necessarily work with AJ. We just gotta wait and see. But AJ is out of his comfort zone. He is training here in Texas. Not here, but like here in America. He's not out in the UK. But he did travel to the UK to face off with Jermaine Franklin in their press conference the other day. I did watch a press conference. What did I get out of it? I mean, I really didn't get much out of it. I mean, I think the biggest thing out of that presser was the fact that we now officially know for sure that AJ is with Derrick James. And I just want to wait and see if there's any notable differences in AJ. I don't think it's going to be any extreme differences because I think that just being with Robert Garcia and the noticeable differences in that Usyk rematch. I think we're going to see a little bit of that. I think we're going to see a little bit more of an aggressive, smart AJ, but more aggressive, more like looking for the knockout kind of AJ that we seen in previous fights, but just better. Seeing like I'm thinking like more like a Dominic Brazil, Dillian White one, Vladimir Klitschko, some of those earlier fights where AJ has come to be a little bit more of a technical guy and just more just looking to outbox you more than having that killer instinct. I think that's what Derrick James is there for. Smart, pressure, power. You've seen that with Errol. Pressure, power, jabs. We've seen that with Jamel. We've seen it the same with Frank Martin against Michelle Rivera recently. That was like a 50-50 fight going into that fight where Frank might have been a very, very slight favorite to win that fight. But Frank Martin made it look like they weren't even in the same class, when it came down to it. So I'm very curious to see what AJ is going to bring. Jermaine Franklin had that very disputable loss to Dillian White recently. But I did notice, and I think Eddie did bring it up, that Jermaine looked to be already fit. He looks to be cutting down in the weight. I think that was one thing that I was surprised at that fight with Dillian White is that Jermaine Franklin was inactive for a little while. All right. And I remember him being much lighter in previous fight. I don't know if that was a thing that was part of the strategy to come in a little heavier. I think with his quick hands, I think he should want to be lighter. But I could see him wanting to be heavier because he wants to absorb the punches a little better from a puncher like Dillian White. Now he's going in there with AJ. I don't know exactly what the plan is. I have compared them, and they did at the press conference, but I have compared Jermaine Franklin a little bit to Andy Ruiz when I did my breakdown in the Dillian White fight. There are some comparison there as far as the fast hands is concerned, but I do not believe that Jermaine Franklin is as good as Andy Ruiz. Okay, and I just want to make that clear. There are some similarities there, especially, don't have the long reach. They're kind of shorter for heavyweights. For a heavyweight standard, they're kind of on the shorter side. Jermaine Franklin do throw a lot of combinations. He likes to let his hands go. He's not the biggest defensive fighter or anything like that. But I think AJ should be able to handle Jermaine Franklin. He's been in there with fighters that fight similar like a Andy Ruiz, and he's been in there with better world class fighters, more dangerous fighters. And I think they are looking to dominate and get the KO. That's part of the plan. Even AJ said it after the Dillian White fight that Dillian White was supposed to stop this guy. He made Nate, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something on the lines where that was a fight where Dillian White was supposed to get a stoppage. He was supposed to knock him out. And I think that's part of the plan with AJ. That's what AJ is looking to do. Take a more aggressive approach, but fight smart. Just gotta be safe. I mean, safety first. And AJ is a safe fighter at the end of the day. But he's gonna be looking to step in and look for those exchanges and look for those opportunities to land something big, hurt Jermaine Franklin. We've seen Jermaine Franklin hurt before. We already know he's not the greatest defensive fighter. Jerry Forrest fight, if you go back to look at that fight, look at the Jerry Forrest fight, even look at the Dillian White fight. Dillian White did hurt him late in that fight. I think AJ is going to stop him. But I'm more curious to see um, what kind of adjustments that Derrick James is able to do. We might not even be anything, because not for nothing. I'm gonna be honest. It's not that Jermaine Franklin is a bad opponent. He's not. If you're coming off of 2 losses, I've said this in a previous video. If you're coming off of 2 losses, this is a good fight. This is a good fight. All right. It was the same thing with Wilder. I didn't make a complaint at all when he fought Robert Helenius because he was coming off 2 knockout losses. Helenius was coming off, even though Helenius was a sparring partner for Wilder and they're very familiar with each other and stuff, I still thought that it wasn't a bad fight based on the situation. You know what I'm saying? And I feel the same about this fight. I don't think it's a bad fight based on the situation. If you're going to go into a fight and you're coming off of 2 losses, you want to get back in your groove. You want to get back in your bag, and you got other fights, other opportunities that's awaiting you next. At the very least, Anthony Joshua is going to be fighting Dillian White in a rematch. At the very least, it doesn't get any lower than that. You fighting Dillian White, you might fight Francis Ngannou, and I know people are looking at it as just an MMA fighter. Francis Ngannou is extremely high risk still, even as an MMA fighter, because even though he doesn't have the boxing experience overall, he is a monstrous puncher. He's an extremely hard puncher, and you don't want to lose to an MMA fighter. So whoever ends up taking that fight, whether it's Fury, whether it's Wilder, whether it's AJ, extremely high risk for all 3 of those guys, because you don't want to lose to an MMA fighter being a top heavyweight fighter, an elite heavyweight fighter. So whether it's AJ fighting White and Ngannou, Wilder, Fury, I think AJ winning this fight, he's going to fight at the bare minimum White or Ngannou. And if it's not that, he's going to be fighting Fury or Wilder, this year. I believe it now. I believe that Wilder and AJ happens. The chance of it happening, I think, is more realistic more now than ever. Back before the DAZN deal, before the whole $12 million thing back then, the $50 million thing, I think is more realistic now because they both have taken their losses, and these guys just want to make their money and get out the game. All right, but he has to get through Jermaine Franklin, who is a threat, but somebody he should be able to handle. And I'm expecting him to handle and finishing him in impressive fashion. Not only just winning the rounds, but also stopping him in the fight. I'm glad that he's gotten out of his comfort zone, has trained in the U.S., and I think he's going to stick with Derrick James. I think, Derrick James, I said, and the reason why I like him is because he doesn't have a large camp of fighters. He likes to be really personal with his stable of fighters. So he only has 3 fighters before AJ. He doesn't want to train a bunch of guys that's in the gym. He wants to specifically work on the strengths and weaknesses of his fighters, and I like that. and I think that's good for AJ. I think that's what AJ needs. So hopefully the chemistry works out. And if it doesn't, he doesn't. But I still think either way, whether he was with James or whether he was with Robert Garcia or whoever, I think AJ wins the fight by knockout. All right, so that's my thoughts. It was my last video. I'm out of here. Please subscribe if you are new. Smash the like button, share the video, and y'all enjoy the Super Bowl. And my next video will probably be doing a breakdown of the Mauricio Lara Lee Wood fight that's coming up this weekend. All right, so be on the lookout for that, and I'm out. Peace.